Write in short about Sclerotia with an example. Sclerotium plural Sclerotia is a compact hard masses of hardened fungal mycelium that contains fungals that contains fungals that contains fungals that contains fungals that contain food reserve and is capable and is capable and is capable of and is capable and is capable of and is capable of remaining dormant for long periods in adverse environmental conditions. The function as survival and resting a structure nahalai allowing for fungus persist in the soil for several years until favorable conditions like species moisture and temperatures levels and returns at which determinates to produce regenerate the place where it is germinate to produce new mycelial growth and protein bodies a structure and key characteristic a structure Sclerotia have a protective dark dark and melanin rich outer rind and F4 tightly packed and colorless hyphae filaments that store nutrients especially कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स एंड लिपिड्स ठीक ना। इसके बाद फिर क्या बोलते हैं से सर्वाइवल ना हलै सर्वाइवल्स का से हलै थे ना they are highly resistant to environment extremes ठीक ना environment extremes such as dryness and chemical such as dryness and chemical treatments and microbial degradations and due to their low water contents and tough outer layer ठीक है ना। इसके बाद रोल ना हलै Sclerotia are crucial for long term survival and propagations of many plant pathogenic fungi acting as the primary source of inoculum for disease new cycles examples ना हलै examples का से हलै examples the primitive example is the fungus the primitive example is the fungus the primitive example is the fungus ठीक है ना। the primitive example is the fungus ना हलै primitive example is the fungus the primitive example is the fungus Calenivius and Proferia which produce elongates ना हलै। इसके बाद फिर क्या हलै which produce elongates high colored कैसे हलै high colored डार्क कलर स्क्लेरोटिया नॉन ergots. इसके बाद फिर क्या बोलते हैं impact the ergots in the form of the ergot in the forms of the forms the ergot in forms in the place of grains forms of place in grains impact कैसे हले क्या बोलते हैं नहीं हाँ कैसे हले नहीं कैसे हले infecting rye and other grasses ठीक ना historical significance ना हलाई historical significance ना हलाई historical significance ठीक ना historical significance क्या चीज़ हलाई ingesting breads made from contaminations and ingesting breads made from contaminations grains historically ठीक है ना grains historically causes ergonomics animal humans and animals a serve conditions known as ST ST anthony fire ना हलै the sclerotia contains toxics alkalides like ergotamines that causes symptoms such as pneumonia and hallucinations and guerin और लास्ट में का से हले यार लास्ट के फॉर्म से ना लास्ट में का से हले some कैसे हले some uses हले कैसे हले some uses some कैसे हले modern use ना हले हम modern use some of these alkalides have been exerted some have been used in treating in migrants and aiding in childbirth aiding in their childbirth recovery no aiding in the childbirth recovery answer complete.